Have you ever felt stuck in an endless cycle of failures and rejections? Like no matter how hard you try, success seems to slip right through your fingers? Steve Harvey understands that feeling all too well. For years, he rode a roller coaster of highs and lows, struggling against poverty and a lack of opportunities. But what he discovered is that success isn't something that happens by chance. It's a choice we make every day, in every thought and action. And when we learn to align our minds with our dreams, the impossible becomes achievable. Many believe that success is reserved only for the lucky ones, for those who were born with the success gene. But the truth is, each of us has within us the power to create the life we want. The secret lies in learning to use that power consciously and consistently. And that's exactly what Steve Harvey will share with you today. Steve Harvey's story. I was born in Welch, West Virginia in 1957. My father was a coal miner, and my mother was a homemaker. We were a large family with 6 kids, and times were tough. My father worked long, dangerous shifts in the mines to put food on the table, but it often wasn't enough. I remember nights when we'd go to bed hungry, praying that the next day would be better. Growing up, I didn't have many examples of success around me. Most people in my community were caught in the same cycle of poverty, just trying to survive. But something inside me, a voice, whispered that I was destined for more. I didn't know how, but I knew that one day I'd find a way out. My faith sustained me during those hard years. Even when everything seemed hopeless, I held on to the belief that God had a plan for me. I visualized a better life, a life full of purpose and abundance. And every day, I took a step towards that vision, even if it was only in my mind. I remember a specific moment when I was about 12 years old. We were going through particularly tough financial times, and there was very little food at home. I sat on the floor of my room, tears streaming down my face, and began to pray. But it wasn't an ordinary prayer. I started talking to God as if He was right there in front of me. I described in vivid detail the life I wanted, the person I wanted to become. I could see it all clearly in my mind, the success, the impact, the abundance. And then I thanked God as if I had already received it. That moment was a turning point for me. Something shifted in my mindset. I went from simply surviving to truly believing that I could thrive. And even though my external reality didn't change right away, something inside me had transformed. I began to apply this principle of faith in every area of my life. Before going to school, I'd visualize myself succeeding in class. Before playing basketball, I'd picture making winning shots. And before going to bed at night, I imagined a life filled with purpose and impact. Little by little, my mindset started to change. I was no longer a victim of my circumstances. I was a creator of my destiny. But faith without action is dead. I knew I couldn't just sit back and wait for my dreams to come to life. I had to put my faith into action. So I started seeking opportunities to grow and learn, even amid difficulties. I signed up for every extracurricular activity I could. Debate club, basketball team, theater group. Not because I was naturally good at those things, but because I knew each experience would teach me something valuable. I was willing to be bad at something long enough to get good at it. And you know what happened? I began to stand out. Not because I was the most talented, but because I was the most determined. I was willing to put in the work, to stay late practicing my speeches or perfecting my shot. And slowly I started to see the results. I won my first oratory contest in high school. I was named MVP of the basketball team. I got the lead role in the school play. Each small victory was a validation of my faith, a sign that I was on the right path. But I knew this was only the beginning. These successes were great, but they weren't my end goal. I had a bigger dream, a higher calling, and I was determined to pursue it, no matter what. After graduating high school, I knew I wanted to be a comedian. I loved making people laugh, loved the thrill of being on stage, but I also knew it would be a tough life. The world of comedy is unforgiving, full of rejection and uncertainty. But I was ready for the challenge. I moved to Los Angeles with only a few dollars in my pocket and a dream in my heart. I started doing stand-up at local clubs, facing apathetic crowds night after night. There were moments when no one laughed, moments when I questioned everything, but I kept going. I kept writing jokes, kept getting on stage, kept believing. There were days when I didn't have money to eat. I'd sleep in my car and shower at the local YMCA. But even in my darkest moments, I never lost sight of my vision. I kept visualizing success, kept thanking God for opportunities that hadn't yet materialized. And you know what happened? Things started to change. Slowly at first, almost imperceptibly. A laugh here, an applause there. But I could feel it. I was on the right path. One of the turning points in my life was when I started seeking mentors. I knew I couldn't do it alone, that I needed the wisdom and guidance of those who had walked the path before me. I began attending workshops and seminars, soaking up all the knowledge I could. But I wanted more than just knowledge. I wanted relationships. So I started approaching comedians I admired after their shows, not to ask for favors, but to offer value. I remember one particular conversation with a veteran comedian named Bernie Mac. I had studied his work extensively and had some thoughts on how he could improve his act. After his show, I respectfully approached him and shared my thoughts. To my surprise, he was impressed. We talked for hours, and a mentorship was born. Bernie taught me a lot about the art of comedy, but more importantly, he taught me about the art of perseverance. He shared his own struggles, his own moments of doubt and despair, but he also shared his unwavering faith, his belief that everything happens for a reason, and that failure is just a stepping stone to success. Those lessons stayed with me as I moved forward in my life. And when things got tough, and they got tough many times, I remembered Bernie's words. I remembered to keep the faith, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, even when I couldn't see the path ahead. As my career started to take off, I noticed an interesting pattern. The more I focused on my vision, the more opportunities appeared. It was like the universe was conspiring in my favor, bringing people and circumstances into my life that aligned with my purpose. But I also realized that this alignment wasn't accidental. It was the result of a conscious choice to live according to my values and beliefs, even when it was uncomfortable. It was the result of saying yes to things that brought me closer to my goals, and no to things that distracted me from them. For example, there was a point in my career when I was offered a role in a film that would have paid me a lot of money. But the role didn't align with who I wanted to be as an artist and as a person. It would have required me to compromise my integrity and my values. So even though it was scary, I said no. And you know what happened? Not long after, I received another offer, a role that was perfectly aligned with my vision. And that role not only paid me more, but also gave me the opportunity to do work that was meaningful and impactful. That taught me a powerful lesson. When we align with our purpose, when we say yes to our truth, even when it's hard, the universe moves in our favor. The right doors open, the right people show up, and suddenly, the impossible becomes possible. I began to understand the true meaning of success. It wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about impact. It was about using my gifts and resources to make a difference in the lives of others. I started looking for ways to give back, to lift others up the way I had been lifted. I began mentoring young comedians, sharing the lessons I had learned along the way. I started using my voice to advocate for causes that were important to me, to bring attention to issues that were often overlooked.